It is 2 in the morning, and the temperature inside your home has dropped to 41 degrees. The power went out 6 hours ago. Your thermostat is a dark rectangle on the wall. Your children are buried under every blanket in the house, and you can see your own breath forming pale clouds in the kitchen as you move through the dark. You pull out your phone and search emergency heating costs. A propane space heater, $80. Emergency insulation foam, $60 a can. A professional heat assessment, $300 just to schedule. You have $42 in your account until Friday. And as you stand there in the dark, in your own home, shaking, the answer is already there. It has been there for months. It is sitting in 3 cardboard boxes by your recycling bin, crumpled in the couch cushions, stuffed behind the washing machine. It costs nothing. It has always cost nothing. And the reason you do not know what it is has everything to do with who profits from your ignorance. The energy industry in the United States alone generates over $400 billion every single year, and almost none of that money comes from people who are warm enough to think clearly. Think about what that means. Think about who controls the narrative around heating your home. The utility companies running the pipes and the wires, the insulation manufacturers selling branded foam and batting, the HVAC contractors who charge $200 just to walk through your front door. Every single one of these industries depends on one thing: you believing that warmth is complicated, that it requires professionals, that it requires product, that it requires a monthly bill and a service contract and a warranty and an upgrade. They have spent decades burying the fact that a physics student could explain real insulation in under 4 minutes. They cannot build a billion-dollar empire on a principle that costs nothing to apply. But here is the bitter truth they will never broadcast during a cold snap. Heat does not disappear. It moves. And every cheap material you have been throwing in the trash for years is capable of slowing that movement to almost nothing. The science does not care about their profit margin. It never has. Strip away every product, every advertisement, every contractor's invoice, and the physics of heat retention reduces to a single brutal truth. Dead air is the most powerful insulator on Earth. Not spray foam, not fiberglass batting, not the premium radiant barrier your neighbor paid $4,000 to have stapled into his attic. Dead air, still, trapped, motionless air, is what every single one of those expensive products is trying to simulate. When air cannot move, it cannot carry heat away from your body, your walls, your floors. The entire engineering principle behind a down jacket, a triple-pane window, and a military cold-weather sleeping bag is identical. Trap air. Hold it still. Let it work. The U.S. Army's cold-weather survival doctrine has documented this principle for over 60 years. Field Manual 2176 instructs soldiers in environments down to -60 degrees Fahrenheit to layer materials not for their weight, but for their ability to create air pockets. The material itself is almost irrelevant. The trapped air is the weapon. Which brings us to what is sitting in your recycling bin right now. On the floor of your garage, or crumpled in a box by your back door, is one of the most thermally efficient materials ever accidentally created. Bubble wrap. Standard, transparent, packing bubble wrap. The kind that comes wrapped around every appliance, every piece of furniture, every online order, is, according to thermal engineers, a near-perfect window insulator. Each individual bubble is a sealed pocket of dead air. A single layer of bubble wrap applied directly to a window pane reduces heat loss through that glass by up to 50%. NASA engineers who study thermal dynamics for spacecraft insulation have acknowledged the same underlying principle for decades. A double layer pushes that number even higher. Here is exactly how you apply it. And it costs you nothing. Take your bubble wrap and lightly mist the window glass with water from a spray bottle or a damp cloth. The surface tension of the water creates a temporary adhesive bond between the wrap and the glass. Press the bubble side directly against the pane. Smooth it flat. It will hold for weeks without tape, without adhesive, without damaging the glass or the frame. Light still comes through. Diffused, softened, but the thermal bridge that was silently bleeding warmth out of your home at a rate of up to 40% of your total heat loss is now interrupted. No batteries to die, no fuel to run out, no parts to fail. And it is made from packaging you were going to throw away tomorrow. But as you step back and look at your covered windows, your feet remind you of the war being fought. It directly beneath them. Floors are the silent killers of home heat. A poorly insulated floor in a cold climate home can account for 15 to 20% of total thermal loss, and most renters, most working homeowners, never once address it. They spend money on window coverings and door seals while standing barefoot on a surface that is actively conducting heat out of their body at a rate of 25 times faster than still air. Your floor does not feel cold because the room is cold. The room feels cold because the floor is pulling heat directly from the air above it. Reach into your closet right now and pull out any piece of clothing you have not worn in 6 months. Rolled tightly and pressed against the base of every exterior door, an old sweatshirt or pair of jeans becomes what insulation engineers call a draft snake, a physical barrier that blocks the cold air infiltration that happens at floor level, where gaps under doors can allow the equivalent of leaving a window open an inch and a half. Depression-era families during the 1930s used this exact method as standard practice. It is documented in homesteading archives across the rural Midwest. It is not a trick. It is applied physics with a $0 materials cost. Go further. Pull out the cardboard from those same boxes your bubble wrap came in. Lay it flat beneath your area rugs, beneath couch cushions placed on cold floors, beneath the feet of anyone sitting still for long periods. Cardboard has a thermal resistance value, an R value, of approximately 1.0 to 1.5 per inch of thickness. It is not insulation grade, but layered, it creates a meaningful barrier between your feet and the cold substrate underneath. Cold climate engineers in Scandinavian countries have documented historical use of layered paper and cardboard as emergency subfloor insulation dating back centuries. Finally, if you have a radiator or baseboard heater, slide a piece of aluminum foil, shiny side out, between the unit and the wall behind it. Heat that would otherwise conduct directly into an exterior wall and radiate outside is instead reflected back into the room. Building scientists estimate this single step increases the effective output of existing radiators by 8 to 12% without touching a single setting, a single pipe, or a single utility bill. Before you seal a single crack or cover a single pane, I need to stop you, because the mistake I am about to describe has turned good intentions into dangerous, costly disasters. The fatal error is sealing a home too completely without accounting for moisture and combustion air. When you dramatically reduce air infiltration in a home that uses gas appliances, a gas stove, a gas water heater, a gas furnace, you can create negative pressure conditions that cause backdrafting, a phenomenon where carbon monoxide from combustion is pulled back into the living space instead of venting outside. This is not a theoretical risk. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has documented hundreds of cases annually where overzealous weatherproofing contributed to carbon monoxide buildup. The rule is this: insulate, do not seal, create air pockets that slow heat movement, do not create a vacuum, leave intake vents clear, never block combustion appliance flues, and always have a working carbon monoxide detector on every floor before you begin any insulation project. The goal is a warmer home, not a more dangerous one. What you now understand about heat is something the energy industry has spent decades hoping you would never figure out. You understand that warmth is not a product, it is a principle. Dead air, applied strategically, using materials you already own. This is what military cold weather doctrine is built on, what NASA thermal engineers validate, what Depression-era families knew by instinct because they had no other choice. You have not just learned a trick, you have internalized the physics that underlies every insulation product ever sold to you at a markup of 800%. The prepared do not panic in the cold. They look at what they have and they build warmth from nothing. That is not a survival skill. That is the oldest form of human intelligence on Earth. Tell me in the comments right now, what is the coldest your home has ever gotten, and what did you do to survive it? I want to hear from people who have been there, because the real knowledge in this community comes from experience, not from product packaging. If you want to keep learning what the energy industry, the insulation manufacturers, and the utility companies have spent billions making sure you never figure out, subscribe right now. This channel exists for one reason: to hand you the knowledge they buried. Join the people who refuse to be kept cold and kept broke by industries that profit from both. The truth about warmth has always been free. We are just here to make sure you find it.